So this is actually a bit of code from Growth project. So Growth is a consortium and they have released this particular notebook. So I had went to the school and great resource. I'll link it to it, link the thing in the presentation. Okay. Now essentially our star looks like this, right? But sometimes it could happen that there is wind or there is slight shake in the telescope, and it's not necessary that your star should be round shaped. It could be oblong or egg shaped, or it could even be irregular shaped. We don't know. So what we can try to do is find out the shape of each of the stars in this particular image. So the way we do that is we do Fourier transformation over the entire image. And how we are doing that is a little rigorous. Even I don't know how it's actually done, but I know it's done based on Fourier transform. There is a lot of math behind it. But essentially what you are trying to do is you are trying to find out all the frequent 2D. We are trying to convert this from spatial domain into frequency domain and trying to find out PSF that way. PSF is if you are given a point, how will it spread out over the sensor? Same thing here. If we know the PSF, we can accurately know how, by how much or by what method it has spread out that way. And we will try to deconvolute it or deconvolve it. So it's a convolution. If we do a Fourier transform on a 2D array or a image here, we would get lots of concentric circles with the center on. We would get lots of concentric circles like this. Why we would get that? If you find the sine wave, you will get the answer. But we'll come to that. So this is called the PSF. And if we have this PSF, we can fit that to each individual source and find out there. It's like a mask. If anybody is familiar with Photoshop, it's like a mask. It's like a template that we have cut out for each star, and we are putting that template on that star and taking. It's like similarly when we were kids, we used to make rotis and put a plate over that, cut out all the extra bits, you will get a round thing, something similar, except here the template is rather oddly shaped. So that's PSF. Okay, let's take this example, right? So in this particular image, everything is slightly top left to top, bottom right. They are all slightly oblong. Would you agree? Or just imagine, go with me on this. Imagine that they are all sort of egg shaped. Okay. Now, if you were to take the PSF of this image, you will get an egg shaped PSF. So that is PSF photometry. And what PSF can do for us is we can separate the sources individually no matter how crowded they are. Now let's try to look, run through the process of how people actually do photometry. Yeah, so there is a module called AstroPy. AstroPy has a fits module. I wouldn't go into the code too much. Essentially, this is a field that we have captured. It does not actually look like green and yellow. It's just the colors are made that way. This is false color. The yellow bright parts are all the stars that we have captured. The dark blue colors are darker regions. And this round is there due to the telescope. There is an effect called vignetting. This happens in photography as well. If there are photographers amongst you, you would know this, what vignetting is. If you were to use a lens meant for crop sensor cameras on a full frame camera, you would get vignetting. You can see that there are lots of yellow dots here, and all these yellow dots are individual stars, and there are a lot of individual stars that we have here. All right. So now what we can do is we can detect all these sources. So to do that, we will use some programs called source extractor. This is all automated. The program will find out all the sources. It will put markers on them. So you can see that there is a red colored dots here. And all these red colored dots are where we have found stars. And what we are trying to do is, this is a known region of the sky. We will ask an internet catalog. Okay, internet, just like saying, okay, Google, what is this star here? and Google will give me an answer. Not Google, some other service, but they will give me an answer saying, okay, this is Sirius, its brightness is this much, its type O star, type B star, whatever extra details that it has. And we will do that for all of these stars. We will ask internet, what is this star? What are its properties? What is this star? What are its properties? And like this for like hundreds and thousands of stars that we are finding in this field. Now what we can do is, initially in the equations that we have seen earlier, we said that how do we measure the magnitude? We will take the flux and we will take the log of that. Why is it that way? Blame Hipparchus. He's the one who messed it up for all of us. So essentially magnitude is a logarithmic scale of flux. And we will try to find the magnitude of all of these stars that are in this field. All right. And now if you have noticed that we are not finding stars in the edge of this image. And this is done intentionally so that these regions are not really great, because we know there is vignetting here, there could be other effects here, there could be things that are going wrong. So we are trying to consciously avoid those regions. All right, now we will do, what will we do? We'll try to find all the sources and we will try to find out internet sources like I said before. And we will map image that we have here, and we will try to find magnitudes from the catalog that we are querying from online. So we are asking Google, okay Google, what is this? Google will give us an answer and we will have an answer of our own. So we can compare. And instead of doing the original differential photometry that we did, we can do here something called absolute photometry. And the way do we do that? We will compare each of these stars that we have got to something that's out there in the catalog. Right, and when we come there, there is something called 0-point deviation. Yeah, before we go there, just look at this equation. M instrumental magnitude is minus 2.5 log of total flux. And the M apparent, magnitude apparent. I hope all of you have heard of magnitude scales, right? Flux is total number of counts. So we just now said that we are getting count from our pixels. What is our number of photons? Multiplied by the gain of the detector, divided by the total exposure. That is the total flux that we are receiving. Does that make sense? Okay, so this can be used like a proxy or substitute for brightness. Let's just assume that way. And we are dealing in fluxes. If a star is really bright, it will have lots of flux. If a star is really dim, it will have less flux. That we can agree, right? For now, the basic thing you have to know is if something is brighter, it will have more flux. If something is less, it will have less flux. What is the flux? Flux of light. Okay, fine. So yeah, flux, how do we calculate flux? We just take the number of counts that we have received multiplied by the gain of the detector divided by the total exposure. Now we have flux. Now how do we convert this flux into magnitude? And the way we do that is magnitude is equal to K, some constant K, minus 2.5 log of flux. Minus 2.5 log will inverse your scale. So something which has more flux will have lower magnitude. Right. So that's how we find the magnitude. Now we have found the magnitude. There is a slight problem here. Whatever magnitude that we are measuring depends on our instrument. If we slightly change our input voltage, or if slightly the temperature increases, or if by chance the detector got thinner, so our total counts will vary, and so will our magnitude. Now this is a problem because you are using some kind of detector, I am using some kind of detector, and say Sitara is using something else. We will all have different values for the same thing. That's a problem, right? So how do we get rid of this problem? We need some way of standardizing this, and that is why we calculate this 0-point magnitude. Earlier, in our earlier system, differential photometry, we did not really have this problem. If you look back, we were just taking differences. So 9 minus 8 is the same as 11 minus 10. Say I got 11 and 10 and you got 9 and 8. Our differential magnitudes are the same. So we are happy because the difference is the same. We did not really have this problem of 0 point. But when we started using larger, this sort of catalog queries and data driven methods, we kind of ran into this problem. What is actually your instrument's 0 point? When you say you have measured fifth magnitude with your instrument, is that actually fifth magnitude or your instrument is measuring fifth magnitude? We don't know. So to do this, we are doing 0 point magnitude. So there is really an easy way that we can do this. So yeah, so this was done with our aperture photometry, and now we are doing the same thing for PSF photometry. And this is that curve of growth which I have mentioned, where what we are trying to do is increasing the radius of the thing, and eventually we will settle on something where our SNR or signal noise ratio is good. And we'll compute the fit for the PSF photometry. Yeah, basically that's it. So if you get an image, you ask internet, power of internet, and we get a good photometry measurement for each frames. Now you imagine you are doing this for some variable star which has like, I don't know, 1,000 times you have to observe it. So you can automate this whole process with programming. Once you have done it, you can automate it. So the program will take care of itself. And that's what we will try to do it in Saturday's session. We will try to do this. And whoever is familiar with Python, you can get started with this thing right away. I will share the notebook. Not a big problem. And that's about that. So that's how we will find the brightness of stars in the modern context. Now there are some additional things I wanted to touch. If we have time, and I guess we have time for like 5 or 10 more minutes. Okay. Now there is something called UV-VRI photometry, or photometry we are doing using filters. So in the previous sessions, you might have heard of filters, different wave bands of filters, or generally you would have heard of UV filter, ultraviolet filter. Oh, that's the same thing, but infrared filter or red filter, blue filter, visible filter. What are these things? Before we go into that, let's see what an electromagnetic spectrum is. And I hope all of you are familiar with this. So we know there is an electromagnetic spectrum, and we know that our atmosphere blocks a lot of that. So we don't really get UV rays because ozone layer blocks a lot of that. Gamma rays, we don't get it. Though we do get some X-rays and microwaves. Let's see. And the other concept we should be familiar with here is Planck's radiation law, black body temperature. I don't think anybody is in mood for a technical talk, so skim. The atmospheric transmission windows. So this is really something that's important, and that's the reason why we have ultraviolet telescopes and gamma ray telescopes in the sky, not on Earth, because they get scattered away by our atmosphere. So 100 nanometer up to about UV, violet, everything gets blocked by our atmosphere, and there are lots of these lines, band blocks due to water vapor or oxygen. Lots of things get blocked out. And there is a huge radio window where everything is transmitted through the Earth's atmosphere, and longer radio waves are blocked. So this is a figure that you all could look at or research upon later. Now this is the solar spectrum. So you all know that spectrum of the sun looks like this, right? The yellow colored thing is actually what the sun produces, and the red colored thing is what we are getting. Everything else is being blocked by the atmosphere. If you look at UV here, a lot of UV is being blocked by the ozone. And the black colored line is what a black body fit is essentially doing. So at least some of you would have been in graduation or undergraduate. So you would have heard of what is Planck's law and how that shape looks like. So we will try to fit a Planck's radiation law to whatever our observed data is. And we find that, and that's how we calculate the temperature of the sun. We cannot really take a thermometer and put that on the sun, right? We need some good theoretical basis on which we can measure the temperature. So this is one way. The other thing I want to touch on is, okay, so this is what solar spectrum looks like. It's a high resolution spectrum. The x-axis here is wavelength, y-axis is the flux or intensity or whatever you want to call it. And there are photometric filters. So what filters does is they will allow light only from certain wave bands. So there is U, B, V, GRI. Different people use different kinds of filters for different reasons. We'll try to briefly touch on what are those things. So let's imagine this is U filter, and I think you can you see a slightly violet shaded region here? Okay, so that is essentially the window through which ultraviolet light comes in. So if you were to put a U filter on your telescope and look at the sun, you will see only ultraviolet light. Everything else will get blocked. So this is called a band pass filter. Everything else is blocked. The other thing is, okay, so there are like blue filters. Blue is much more broader filter. So there are many conventions. There are lots of systems. We are sticking to something called Johnson and Cousins system. It has a UVBRI. And then there is visible. That's also a broadband filter. There is R, that's red. Okay, and infrared. And this is what the spectral or response curves, or transmission curves or response curves of each of these filters look like. Not really important, but let's see what they do. Now you see the UV filter transmits a lot of light in this particular wavelength. But when it comes to this wavelength, to the left end, its transmission is less. And when it comes to the right end, its transmission is again less. So the central region transmits a lot, the edges are not so much, not great. So what is the implication that we have? Again, let's look at our solar spectrum. So when we are measuring or getting light from the sun, and if you put a UV filter, actually this is what we are getting. Instead of this whole shaded region, the solid violet color is what we are observing. And that's due to the mechanics of the filters. Similarly, blue, there is a lot of loss of light in those regions, yellow, orange, red, and this is what combined UVBRI will give us. And with this, what we can do is, if we do B minus V, let's say we are getting say 1.2 with our yellow filter, and we are getting 0.8 with our blue filter, we can try and estimate that this curve is something like this. And using this is called color index. This is not, I mean, this entire thing would take us a day, but I'll just briefly give you the idea. Color index, what it does allows us to do is, using photometry, we can measure temperature of any star, any black body, essentially. So we can measure the temperature of the sun using UVBRI color indexes. So this is again SDSS filters. So SDSS, if you don't know, it's a whole digital sky survey. They have cataloged the entire sky, blah, blah, blah. And they have their own set of filters. This is called UGRI. And yeah, this is what I was talking about, color index. It can be used to find out the temperature of different objects. Right, these are few examples what you can do with different kinds of stars, O-type star, B-type star, what are the different color indexes that you would find. This is all look up, you can look it up anywhere, you can find it, all information. And there is something called color excess. So the other day when we were talking about distance measurement and reddening, we had actually talked about this equation where we were using color index to find is there light in between or not. So this is how we construct light curves. Using photometry, we can measure light over time and then model it, bring out physics out of that. So we are essentially going from a detector into some star which is giant, far, far away. We are understanding its physics through a simple telescope and a camera. Right, and these are few more links. And I will stop here.